What is up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Happy 420 for all of you who dabble in that. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday today. We're going to get into some modeling today. So, should be interesting, should be fun, and we'll get into it. All right. But before we get into modeling, you guys know the deal. We're going to go through just a couple updates. Nothing changing on there. We're going to continue to do what we've been doing. Remember all the disclaimers. There will be an additional disclaimer when the model comes. The picks will continue. They're going to be posted after the show and in the afternoon. I don't have them on the slides for today because I'm waiting on lineups for soccer. They're anticipated. I know what they should be, but waiting to see what the lineups actually look like and then some things like that. So those picks will be out in the Discord later. So if you're not in the Discord, go join the Discord. It's the first link down below. Go check it out. What's going on? Fuzzy, how are you? What else we got going today? All right, we're going to talk about modeling. Now, I'm going to keep John's energy from his morning show here. And with the snowflake mentality, don't expect models to always be accurate. All right, they're not for the most part. It depends on who wrote the model. Depends on all that stuff. But the other thing with that is don't expect somebody to give you just whatever model they use because there's a lot of time that goes into these models and a lot of trials and tribulations and testing and background behind it and all that kind of stuff. So if you see models online that are posted, be wary. Again, a lot of people aren't going to show you how to actually code the model that they use that has made them profitable sports betting. I'm not saying that I'm not going to show you it. I'm just saying that be careful with that kind of stuff. All right. The other thing is models can get very, very complex. All right. Today, I'm literally going to show you something very, very, very simple. This is not going to be a long-term winner. It may be a short-term winner. It may win long-term. I don't know. I've used stuff like this in the past. I use it as a basis for other things. But over the next few episodes, looking to just get into the basics of modeling and kind of show you what you would need to know for modeling to understand how you would create your own model. And I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in this in a little bit, but with the model, it's really dependent on what you want it to be. All right. There's no like grand scale MLB model or NFL model or anything that, like everybody uses. It's all dependent on you as an individual. They're based on stats and certain parameters that you specifically want. All right. So just be mindful of that. And hopefully I'll give you a background in how to get some of this information, how to put it into like an Excel spreadsheet, and then we can go from there. So what are models? All right, little background info. It's a system that can identify probabilities to determine outcomes of games. Now, are they always right? Like I said, no, they're not. But if your model is good and if your model has been tested properly, it should be able to predict outcomes or predict results in a efficient manner. I'm not going to call it right all the time or right most of the time, but it should be a profitable system, or else you're going to need to tweak your model. If your model's not profitable through varieties of tests and stuff, then that model is going to need to be tweaked, and you're going to need to update it and change it accordingly. And as I was saying, with the model itself, right, it's based on data that's input, and then clearly I'm having a day today. Should say cross-referenced, not Ross-referenced, but I made a typo. Sorry. Cross-referenced with the gambling lines in the books and then whatever parameters you set on said model. All right. So again, like I said, it's going to be up to you as an individual what kind of model you want to build. There's a multitude of types. I'm going to go over a few of them, but it's also what specific parameters you want to look at. All right. If you're building a baseball model and you care a lot about, striker or pitcher strikeouts, well, maybe your model is going to be based more on pitcher strikeouts than it is on, slugging percentage of batters or something like that. All right. So, again, it's based on what you would want it to be. And again, I'm going to show you how you can get that information and then also how to kind of put it into a model and build sort of a rough model out. And again, this is going to take a couple episodes. It's not going to be finished today. I can tell you my soccer model took me about 30 hours to build out the entire model, and then there's probably about 5 to 6 hours of work per week updating it and doing other things with it. So it's not something that you build and then you can just leave it to be, whatever it is. You have to consistently update it, make tweaks to it based on results that are happening. They're updated in real time for the most part. You can use like scrapers, which will pull information from the internet, but they're not very easy to make yourself. If you're not a coder, you're not going to know how to do it. I don't know how to do it myself. I've been trying to, but I haven't been able to do it. So a lot of my modeling is a lot of hand work in the background, just a lot of entering info on my own. All right, so we will get into that though shortly. All right, so how do we use the models, right? So like I said, specific data points entered that are going to give you an output of whether you should bet on it or not. All right, and again, it's determined by you, the individual who is creating said model. My models are going to be different than yours because you may want a different sport that I don't even model. You may want specific parameters that you think are more important, that you want to weigh more heavily into your model that I don't think are as important. So it's really up to the individual, and there's different types of modeling, right? There's a model for each individual sport. You can't really use the same model for each sport. There's a rough model that you could use and then tweak it per sport, but the stats are different in all sports. Certain stats and certain data is more important to certain sports than it is to other sports, and that's why there's different models for different sports. Again, it's based on specific stats that you want. Each sport has many stats associated with it, so your model is going to be based on whatever stat you think is important or whatever few stats you think are more important. And then there's also the aspect of what kind of data test do you want it to run? Do you want like a linear regression model? Do you want a Poisson distribution? Do you want there's a whole bunch of different ones you can work on and you can implement into the model. And based off that data test, it's also going to help you determine what stats you're going to need, right? Because if you're looking for a certain data test, you may need to be comparing 3 or 4 stats. So you're going to need 3 or 4 stats in your model. You're not going to be able to do it with one stat. All right, so just keeping that in mind. And then also confidence intervals that can give you, a good basis on whether or not you should actually make the bet, or maybe it's just, there's a discrepancy in the line, but it's not enough to actually, bet on it or anything like that. So do they actually work? Well, again, like I said, it's really based on the individual and what you're betting on. And if you don't tweak your models, I can assure you they're not going to work. If you don't consistently update your models, I can assure you they're not going to work. Yes, they do work, but again, they're very complicated. There's a lot of work that goes into them. And like I said before, keeping on John's snowflake mentality, no one is going to give you a profitable model for free. All right, it doesn't exist. If anyone's touting that they're going to give you a free model that works every time, that you don't have to do anything for, it's not happening. All right, these people put in lots of hours. I know personally on mine, I've put in, I don't know how many hours. I know my soccer model off the top of my head, but my football models are even more time intensive. My DFS models are more time intensive. So I spend a lot of time in the background updating things, tweaking things, running tests on the models themselves just to see how they perform. So just know that before you start modeling, it is very complicated. I'm not saying that you shouldn't start modeling or trying to model. The thing is that when you start modeling, don't bet necessarily based on your model at first. Make sure it's actually working for you, working how you want it to work, and make sure what you see in the model is actually what's occurring in real time during games and things like that. It's very hard to create a working model on your first try. So I'm going to tell you that in advance. It's hard, all right? It's not easy. So don't get discouraged, but just know that there's tweaks that can be made. There's some other formulas you may be able to use. Maybe you have to adjust your stats, things like that. So you can definitely do that, but I'm just going to warn you in advance, please be mindful that it's not easy, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't work the way you want it to. Sometimes you just have to go back to the drawing board and work on it again. John asks, is there a way to automate the model scraping data to feed it, or you have to really? There is. There's scrapers. You can purchase a scraper that you can use and implement into the model, and it'll pull the information for you. You can code your own scraper. I've tried. When something breaks in the code, John, as you know, as a coder, it just leads to a whole bunch of issues. So personally speaking, I don't know how to code a scraper well enough to actually be able to use it in my models. So I do a lot of stuff by hand because I'm not paying for somebody to scrape data for me. Down the line, maybe. Or if I could, learn how to code a scraper, then certainly would do it. But short to answer your question, yes, you can automate the model with a scraper. The other thing is that when I build my models, I do have them automated somewhat. All right, they're not fully everything. The data entry is done by hand by me, but the actual work of the model is automated. So I push a button, and I have a hotkey on the model itself, and I push the button, and it does the data analysis. I don't have to actually do the data analysis every single time that I want to run a matchup or something like that. The model does the work for me. I just enter in who I want to run the model with, and then it does the work for me because I have it programmed to do so. But yes, you can use a scraper and you can automate things like that. And quickly, how you're going to make your model. All right, you got to choose a goal for your model. What's your main goal? Obviously, winning money is great, yeah. But what's your goal for the model? Are you using it to win money? Are you using it to find an edge? Are you using it to compare X to Y? Are you using it to compare, something that you want to find that's specific? That's what you have to figure out. What is your goal with your model? Then you have to pick your metrics for said model. All right, so once you figure out what the goal is, that's going to help you figure out what metrics you need. So if you're going to make an MLB model, baseball, on pitching stats, and you want to figure out, how many strikeouts a pitcher gets per game to bet on the over or under strikeouts, well, your metrics are going to have to involve their pitching stats. They're going to have to involve, the other team's batting stats, slugging percentages, things like that. You really don't care about how many times the pitcher walks somebody, right? So you're not going to use walks in there. Could you? Yeah, but do you have to? Absolutely not. Do you care about stolen bases? No. That doesn't factor into the pitcher strikeouts. All right, so that's why what I'm saying, you have to choose your goal for your model. You have to pick metrics that are going to help you find and help benefit whatever goal you're looking for. Same thing for like NFL, right? If you're looking for an NFL model and you want it to be a touchdown scoring model that's based on receptions and other stuff, well, you don't need defensive stats in there as much, other than how they are against that position. You wouldn't need defensive stats on how many times the other team gets a first down. You could build things like that in, but that's not necessary to actually make the model. Okay, so your metrics are based on what your goal is. Once you define your metrics, then you can get into the data collection. All right, you can actually figure out what data you need in order to build your model based on the metrics that you're building it on. Again, once you have your data, then you have to pick what kind of model do you want. All right, do you want what statistical tests are you using to figure out what your model is going to be run on? Because once you have the data in there, that's all well and good, but you need a test or some sort of statistical test that you're going to run it against. All right, you can't just put data in there and then hope to read the data. The whole purpose of building the model is to automate that data read. If you're going to just read the data, well, you can just look online and read it yourself. All right, so there's no need to build a model if you're just going to do that. So you have to have what kind of model type you want. Do you want it to be a linear regression? Do you want it to be a Poisson distribution? You could use like t-tests and ANOVA tests and things like that. Do you want those type of statistical analysis? The thing with the statistical analysis is make sure that your statistical analysis supports the data, and it also supports how many metrics you're putting in, All right, if you're going to use 3 different metrics in your model, you can't use a data test that's only looking at 2 of them. All right, so keep that stuff in mind. And then obviously you have to build it, right? So you put the data in, you figure out what kind of test you're going to do, you're going to build it, and then you have to test it. So the best way to test it, obviously, is up against real-time games. You can use simulators to test your stuff. I would recommend doing that, but I would, again, like I said before, do not actually bet based on the model until you have some sort of testing history behind it. So like if you're going to build an MLB model based on overs and unders, right? Don't just go out there because your model says every game's going over today and just blindly bet every single over. See how it actually does. All right. And we're going to do some basic modeling right now. All right. I'm going to go over a handful of things for a basic model. May not finish it today. We may pour into tomorrow a little bit. But actually, I can tell you it's definitely going to pour into tomorrow because I'm going to show you a model that's based on linear regression. All right, but today, the main part of it is actually just building out the model itself. So we're going to be picking the metrics, we're going to be collecting data, and then we're going to be working on getting the sheet ready to go. And then tomorrow we'll work on actually building and running the model. All right, so the model itself will be built tomorrow, but you can't build a model if you don't have the data put into it. So that's what we're going to do today is we're going to put some data into it, formatted how we want it to be, and then tomorrow we're going to do the actual testing of said, or actually the building of the model with the linear regression. So I'm going to share my screen here, and here's what I'm going to do. All right, this is a blank Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to go over MLB totals for you quickly, and I'm going to show you where to get information, things like that. So this website that I'm going to tell you about is very good. There's other ones you can use, but this one very, very good for all sports. It's called Pro Baseball Reference. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I'm sharing my screen, but I'm clicking on my. Here we go. All right, so it's baseballreference.com when it loads up. So this is baseballreference.com. It has a lot of different stats you can use and things like that. Pro Football Reference is the same website. It's just Pro Football. They have it for every sport, so this is a good one. Fangraphs is another good one. And the thing with this stuff, guys, is keep in mind, these things are all free, all right? You don't need to pay for a subscription to get stats for different sports and stuff. You can. It's not necessary, though. But what I want to tell you is Pro Football Reference, Baseball Reference, it's hockeyreference.com, and they're all the same website, just different sports, obviously. And Fangraphs are the 2 that I use the most. Those are very, very good for picking out what kind of data you want. All right, so let's say we want to build a model based on the totals of games. So overs and unders of games. All right, so as you guys know, when you go to a sports book, right, you see the run line, you see the money line, and you see the over-under. All right, so we're going to work on the over-under, okay? The over-under is going to be the total runs scored by both teams. So what stats do we want for the over-under for both teams? So again, this is where you're picking your metrics, figuring out what you want to use. Well, if you're looking at the overs and the unders, could all of these different stats here be used? Well, some of them, right? The bat age, we don't care about that, right? We don't care about how old the team is, all right? I'm just going to close this page out because it's going to exit on me. Get that back because I'm going to need that. All right. The average runs per game. That's important, right? Pretty important. How many runs have they scored per game? We'll use that. The games that they've actually played. Yeah, I mean, kind of important. Debatable. Not really important, but kind of. If you're going to use the average runs per game, you don't really need game, or you don't need how many runs they've scored, because that gives you the average runs per game. All right. How many plate appearances? That could be important based on, more plate appearances typically means more runs scored. I'm going to drag that out just a tad. What else? All these other stats up here, though, okay? They're kind of important, but the main important stat that we're going to look for here is going to be the average runs per game. All right, so we're looking at overs and unders. We want to look at the average runs per game. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll down to copy and paste the average runs per game for all of these teams here. Oh, I just clicked on something. I don't need a dictionary. All right. Yeah, I definitely don't need a dictionary. I don't need that. All right, here we go. So we're going to take all this information here. When it wants to come up, come on. It's hard to share a screen and do this at the same time. All right, so we're going to copy and paste this. All right, so on a Mac, it's Command-C. On a HP, it's or a Windows-based computer, it's going to be Control-C. All right, and we're going to add a new sheet here. And we're going to call this sheet average runs per game. All right, or average run per game. There you go. All right, you don't have to type out the full thing. It's going to be average runs per game. And we're going to copy and paste this in here. And it may take a minute. There it is. All right, so I'm going to drag this out so we can get, a full view of what's going on here, okay, with all the teams and stuff. It looks like I missed the A in Arizona, so that's important. We need that in there. So I'm going to come up here and type in that A because I missed it when I was copying it. And here's what we're going to do, all right? We wanted this stat right here, which is going to be the average runs per game. That's the main stat we want right now. So we're going to get rid of all these stats here. The rest of these stats we don't care about, we're going to get rid of them. We're just going to drag this over and delete them because they're not important to us. All right, so we're going to grab these, left click, and delete the columns because we don't need them. We're also going to do that for columns B and C because, again, we don't need those. So we'll get rid of those. All right, now we're left with the team and their average runs per game. All right, you can format this however you want. I'm going to put a team, and then up here I'm going to write average runs per game. All right, we'll make that bigger so we can see it. This we don't need. We'll get rid of it. All right, and you can format this exactly how you want. Right, so I'm going to just go to format, and I'm going to clear all the formatting that's in there now. Because I want it to just be basic. All right, I just want the team and I just want the average. I don't care about anything else. If you want to center things, you can do that. It's up to you, but I'm not going to spend time doing that. So we got our average runs per game for each team. Now, what do we do with that information? Well, you have two options. All right, I'm going to give you both options, and you can do what you want with them. I'm going to show you one of them, but let me turn my text off. There we go. So I don't get text anymore to my computer. You have two options. You can build the model out based on the team itself and just pull in all the scores for the teams and all that kind of stuff. Or you can just maintain a separate spreadsheet of all that information and then pull in the valuable information that you're going to need with different formulas you want. But here's what I'm going to do to make it super, super easy. It's going to seem kind of tedious in the beginning, but it's going to be really, really easy because it's going to have all of the matchups, and then it's going to make everything flow super easy. All right, so the same website. All right, it's the same exact website, Baseball Reference, just a different tab. All right, so instead of being in the standings tab like I was before, now we're in the schedule tab. All right, and I already pre-highlighted all of this, so I'm going to copy and paste all of this. It's literally every single MLB game for the entire season. Okay? I'm going to copy and paste that into here. And it's going to take a minute because there's a million games for the MLB season. MLB is not one of the easiest ones to model because there are so many games involved with the MLB. All right, again, we're going to clear formatting here. So we're going to hit clear formatting. And we're going to clear it. All right, so you got this, and it's all in one column here. So you're going to sit here and you're going to think, well, what do I do now? Well, don't worry. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to highlight column A. Okay? And what we're going to do at column A is we are going to go to data, and we're going to hit split to text columns. Split text to columns. All right, so it's the same thing on Excel. With Excel, up in the top ribbon, there's a button that'll say like split columns. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do split to text for column A. All right, and now what it's going to do is we don't want to detect automatically because it's going to split however it wants to, but we want to tell them how we want it split, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit custom down here, and we're going to split at the at. Okay, so once we hit that, and we hit enter, and we're going to split at the at. Now, if you take a look at column A, right, now column A is going to be the home team and their score, and then column B here is going to be the away team and their score. And then it also says box score at the end because of how I copied it over. We're going to insert 2 columns to the left here. Okay? And we're going to take this column and we're going to split it again, because you could do this manually and take how many runs they've scored and go over and type. You can type in 10 here, and you can go down here and type in 0, and you can do all that kind of stuff. It's going to take you forever. All right? This is why we're doing it this way, because why waste your time doing that when you actually want to build the model? If you did that for every score that's happened so far, you'd be here forever, and it'd be taking you a mess of time. All right, so again, we're going to split column A here. So we're going to go to data, and we're going to go split text to columns. And this time, we're going to split at the first parenthesis. All right, so we're splitting column A at the first parenthesis. I have caps lock on, that's why. We're going to split at the parenthesis. Okay, and now you hit enter. And now look, the score is moved for everyone down all the way over to column B. And we're going to split column B because, again, you could just get rid of the parenthesis if you wanted to. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can find and replace all that kind of stuff. You can remove that, but easiest way for most people is probably going to be, again, to split. And instead of the, we're going to go to custom again, and instead of this parenthesis, we're going to go over here. All right, we're going to split it there. That's why we needed to add 2 columns. Now we have the scores and the team separated. Okay, we're going to do the same exact thing for this column. All right, so again, we're going to go up here to data, and we're going to hit split the text columns. And this time we're going to split again at the first parenthesis. All right, and we're going to hit enter. So now all of this has moved over. So if you take a look, right, we have just the teams here, and now we have the score, and then the parenthesis, and it says box score. So again, we're going to split this. So we go to data, split text to columns, and now we're going to split it at this one over here. So the other parenthesis, and we'll hit enter. So now we have the score split and the team split. We don't need the box score column, so we'll just get rid of it because we don't need it. And here we go. All right, that looks quite good. Now what we're going to do is we are going to get rid of these we'll get rid of the first 2, sorry. First 2 columns, or first 2 rows here, we'll get rid of them. Now we're going to type in what we want. So this is the home team, right? Now we're going to go home team score. And then over here, this is the away team. And away team score. And if I could type, that'd be good. All right, column C we don't need, so we'll get rid of it. All right, and I'm just going to make this so everything fits in here. I'm just going to highlight the whole 4 columns here, and I'm just going to click like that, and it'll format it so they all fit properly. Okay, now take a look at this, and now you have all the teams with their scores, home and away. All right, so we're on a good track right now. We are on a good start. We've got the scores built in. Okay. Now what we want to do, though, is to clean this up. There's a lot of extra rows here, right? So it's pretty much every other row is an extra row here, and we don't want all of that, right? Because it's going to make your model super, super long, and you're going to have to be scrolling for things. If you want them there, you can do that. But quick way to get rid of this is going to be to left click on the column, and we're going to put create a filter, and we're going to filter for all of the blanks. Okay, so we're going to filter for all of the blanks. So we're going to hit clear because it has everything selected, and we're going to filter on just the blanks, and we'll hit OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to show us every single blank row in the entire thing. What you can do, you can drag all the way down, or you can just go here and you can hit Command Shift down or Control Shift down arrow. All right, on a Mac it's Command Shift down. On a Windows it's Command Shift down, or sorry, Control Shift down. And we're just going to delete these. So we're going to left click and we're going to hit delete selected rows. And again, it's going to take a minute because there's so many rows that we need to delete. But when we filter, we're not going to delete any of the data that we already put in there. It's just going to delete the rows that are empty that we filtered on. And now my computer's going to lock up on me. It's fun. I'm not trying to show anything or anything here, right? Just decides to lock up. Be annoying. Come on. All right. We're going to have to do it again. You get to see it one more time. All right. So it's Command Shift down because I'm on a Mac. Love when my computer just decides to just lock up on me. Command Shift down. And we're going to go delete rows. Delete selected rows. You could hide them too if you wanted to, but we're just going to delete them. Hopefully this will work. I'm praying it works. It may not. I don't know. I have a backup if it doesn't work. All right. This is not going to work. So, lucky for me, I planned ahead, and I did it already. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy and paste all of this. But what you would do is you would go and you just delete those rows like I was trying to show you, but my Google Sheets is locking up on me. All right, so I'm going to just copy these over. All right, because this one doesn't want to work for me. All right, that page is completely locked up. Just going to open up a new one because, again, like I said, I did it already. I think it's because I'm sharing and trying to run too many things at the same time, and my computer's just taking a crap. So we're just going to put this in. And luckily, I did it, so we can just copy and paste. It makes life nice and easy. I had a feeling this may happen, so I tried to plan ahead. Apologies for this. You can see the bars are just spinning up there, just caught in spin world. So I'm going to copy and paste this over. You can load. Come on. My sheet just doesn't. There we go. All right. It finally copied over. The only thing that I'm going to be missing from here is because I have to enter in the. I'm going to have to put in the average run scored again. So average run per game. I'm going to have to put that in again. It's the same thing that I did last time. I'm just going to pull it off of this sheet here because I already did it. So I'm just going to pull this over. I showed you guys how to do this already, though, so it shouldn't be an issue. And we'll format that so it looks a little bit better. And here we go. All right, so let's drag these over a little bit so we can see the teams and stuff. All right. So we have all the games so far with their scores. We know the average team totals that they score each game, right? And here's where the manual thing comes into play. You're going to have to update the average runs per game on a daily basis every time the team plays. So if you had a scraper, it would make that a lot easier. But if not, again, it took, I mean, you saw it. It took 2 minutes for me to go to the website, copy and paste, delete the columns. You don't even have to delete them if you don't want to. But it makes it easier, and it gets rid of a lot of the noise if you just delete them. So I delete them. But you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can just copy and paste that website into the same spot, and it'll work fine for you. You can put the margin in here, and we're going to do the margin because we're going to need it tomorrow. All right, we're not going to need it today, but this is going to be equals, and it's going to be the home team score minus the away team score, and that's what your margin of victory is, right? And we're going to autofill this so it goes all the way down. If you are on like Excel, you can just click down here in this bottom corner and double click it. You can do it on Sheets too, and it'll just pull it away. All right, and here's where we're going to get into some more, not advanced, they're more advanced, I guess you could call them. We're going to come into column F now, and we're going to type in home runs, or home team average runs per game. And again, you can format this however you want. And we'll, in the next column over, we're going to put in away team average runs per game. All right, and now that we have that information in there, so you can clearly tell what I'm going to do here, right? We have these average runs per game, right? Why do we pull that information? We're going to need it now, okay? So we have the average runs per game for the home team. So you could come in here and you could Baltimore Orioles, you could come over here and you could see, all right, the Orioles score 5.5 per game, and you can come in here and then you can type in 5.5 and waste a lot of your time doing that. We're not going to do that, all right? We're not going to do that. I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do right now, all right? What we're going to do is called a VLOOKUP, all right? So in Excel, there's VLOOKUPs, there's XLOOKUPs. We're going to use a VLOOKUP. I'm going to grab a sip of coffee. And so we're going to use a VLOOKUP. So what we're going to type in, it's going to be equals, and you're going to type in VLOOKUP. It'll pop up like that, all right? So what do we want to look up? What are we looking for? We're looking for the home team's average runs per game, all right? So we already have our home team. We set this up already. The home team is the Orioles. So we're going to click on cell A2. So it's going to be VLOOKUP parenthesis A2. And now what do we want to compare it against? So it's going to be comma because we need our next value. And what do we want to be pulled into this cell? And what are we looking up? Well, we're looking up their average runs per game, right? So what we're going to do is we're looking up the Baltimore Orioles average run per game. So that's why we added this sheet in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we are going to highlight these two columns and pull them over. All right, so we're just going to highlight those columns. All right, and now we're going to hit comma. And now we want to look up, we want to know what value do we put in that cell. So where are we looking at? Well, we already know the home team because we have the column labeled as home team runs. So what do we want to populate in that cell? The runs, which are in column 2 on this sheet. So we're going to type a 2 in there. All right. And the next thing is we have to type in false to close our argument. All right. False is basically saying that if they're not there, you're going to get an error. Okay. So we hit enter. And look at that. We have Baltimore Orioles showing up as 5.5 per game. Okay? You're going to say, well, degen, you could have just typed 5.5 in. Well, yeah, I could have. But now, typing in 5.5 seemed like a good time, right? Now, I just double click all the way down, and boom, we have these all popping up here. Okay? So, if you look, now I don't have to go type everything. So the VLOOKUP is what that's for. All right, it's going to look up exactly what I wanted to look up, and it's going to pull all the averages in the entire way down the sheet. All right, the only time it's not is because these games haven't happened yet. And the reason why it's not pulling them is because it's looking for the team name here, right? So like if I'm looking for the Twins, right, it's looking for the words Minnesota Twins. Well, down here, there's a time in front of it. So we have to get rid of that, and we're going to do that in a little bit. All right, we don't have to get rid of it right now. So we're going to do the same exact thing for the away team average runs per game. Team average runs per game. All right, so again, we're going to use a VLOOKUP table, or you could just be industrious like myself and take this formula and just copy it over. Right, we're going to copy and paste this formula into here. All right, now the thing is, we're not looking for the home team anymore, though. All right, so we can't use A2. We have to use C2 because we want to know what the away team score is, what their average runs are per game. So we'll hit enter there. Same formula, but instead of A2 here, we're using C2. Okay? And again, we're going to click this little button on the bottom, and it's going to drag it all the way down. And once it loads, there we go. And the only reason these ones are showing up NA for right now is because, you know, we have the day that the game was on in there because it's the schedule, right? So obviously you don't have to worry about that. So now we have basically the bread and butter of our model. All the data that we want, that we need for these things is in there. We're going to have to update the average runs per game. But for right now, we have the home team, the score that they had earlier in the season, right? The away team and the away score. Then we have the margin, and we can do this now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into column H, and we're going to type in total score, right? So the total score, again, I told you we're looking at overs and unders, right? So the total score is going to be whatever the home team score is plus the away team score. So we're going to go home team plus away team score. So it's going to be B2 plus D2. And we're going to take this and we're going to double click that bottom corner again, and it's going to populate all the way down the page. All right. Now what we want to look for is what these two teams average combined. All right. So it's the same thing, but instead of the total score, now we're looking at their averages combined. So average runs per game combined. And you can label these whatever you want. I'm just labeling it this way so it's easy for everybody to know exactly what we are looking at here. All right, so average runs per game combined. So we're going to type in equals, and that's going to be here, this plus this. So F2 plus G2 is going to give us our, and I realized I'm covering this now, so let me make myself a little bit smaller. So we're going to go here for the average runs per game combined, and again we're just going to double click all the way down so it adds up column F and column G for each one. Okay, pretty simple, right? Pretty simple, not too bad. So what does this all mean? Well, now we're going to put in the betting lines, and hopefully that'll show you, is it something worth betting on or not? Now, again, I told you this model is super simplistic, and it's not going to work long term. Why? Well, there's no statistical test going into it yet. I told you tomorrow we're going to build the linear regression into this. All right, but you can use this if you want for now just to understand kind of how the modeling works, but you can't build the model with the statistical test if you don't have all the metrics in it already, right? So now we have the metrics going in. Now we want to know what the over-under for the game is. Over-under for a game. So we're going to do that. And then we're also going to find out what the difference is between what their average runs combined are and what the total is on the sports book. So difference between average run per game and line. Okay? And again, you can format this however you want. You can color code it however you want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to today's games. All right, so that's the good thing about this is here's today's games. All right, it's going to be, well, this one's today because that's where I pulled it from. But every day, basically, you're just going to scroll down to the, the NA portion here, and then you'll know exactly what you need to do. So we don't have scores in here right now, right? Because the games haven't happened yet. But we can add those scores in later on. We don't need them right now. But what we're going to do here is, actually, sorry, let me lock the first row. We're going to lock this. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go to View, and we're going to freeze one row. Okay? So when you freeze it, now when you scroll, it'll be there, so you know exactly what each column is. So you don't have to scroll up and look for it. Okay, so these are today's games, right? We got the Twins and the Red Sox, A's and the Yankees, Reds and the Pirates, all that kind of stuff, all right? So we're going to come over here, and now we're going to enter in the overs and the unders for these games today. All right, so I'm going to pull up the sports book, and we're going to grab the lines for these games. Again, this is not meant to be like a finalized model. All right, this is just super entry-level type stuff. I just want to show you what you'd be looking at. And again, tomorrow we'll build in some stats to this that'll actually make it, usable. Again, I'd use it with extreme caution because this is literally basing the over-under on the average runs scored per game. All right, there's many other factors that would go into actually betting on overs and unders. Starting pitchers is huge. There's a lot of things. The ballpark that they're playing in, there's a ton of stuff. Weather, humidity in the air. There's a million factors you could factor into this, but I'm just doing it based solely on the average runs per game just to show you what it would look like. All right, so after we have the totals in, so the total for the Twins game and the Red Sox is 9. This one is 8. The Pirates and the Reds are going to be 9. The Rockies and the Phillies are going to be 9. The Dodgers and Cubs are going to be 11. The Padres and the Diamondbacks are going to be 9.5. And the Mets and the Giants are 8.5. All right, so now we have the lines put in from the sportsbook for today. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we want to see what the difference is between the line at the book and what their average runs are. So we're going to type in here equals, and it's going to be this minus this. Okay? And we'll hit enter, and we'll drag this down so we know exactly what it is. And when you look at this, right, now we see a discrepancy of half a run. Here you see a discrepancy of 1.28 runs. Here, almost 3/4. This one, the line is higher than their average runs combined. This one's almost spot on. This one's significantly lower, right? Their teams together are averaging 8.2 runs or 8.3 runs, and the over-under set at 9.5. And this one is another, basically 3/4. So what does this tell you? Well, not much, honestly. Again, when you build the stats into it, that'll tell you more information. But for right now, you can gather that taking these average runs combined and examining them against the over-under for the game, that may start to give you some sort of inkling of what the game will do, or if it will go over, if it will go under. Again, like I said, this is very, very elementary in terms of actually building a model to bet on. I would never place a bet based on this alone right here, just because you're factoring in the average runs that they score combined with what the total is. You're not factoring in where they're playing. You're not factoring in who the pitcher is. You're not factoring in any injuries or anything like that. Any lineup changes. You're not factoring in their batting stats as of late. You're literally just looking at their average runs scored per game. All right, so very, very elementary. But You can also add some things in here to use to figure out if you're going to win bets or lose bets based on this. So tomorrow when we come back and I start adding in the linear regression models and things like that, we're going to take a look at it. But based on this right now, right, you would say this game's going to go over, this game is going to go over, this game should go over, this game is going to go under, this one could go either way. There's a slight edge to the over, but this one's going to go under and this one's going to go over. Tomorrow, we'll check back on this and we'll see exactly how those games did, and I hope most of them are the opposite of what this actually says, because I'm going to show you that this is not how you actually build a model, because anybody could do this and it's not going to take much time. You have to add in the statistical tests. Okay? So hopefully that was relatively easy to understand. I hope I made it easy to understand. Sorry for the tech issues there, but luckily I had it done beforehand already, just to ensure that if anything happened, that it wouldn't be an issue. But if anyone has any questions on this right now, you can ask me. If you have any questions based off this stuff right now, you can ask me. If not, again, tomorrow we're going to go into actually building in the statistical tests with this. Hopefully that was interesting. I know it was kind of boring and stuff like that, but it is what it is. That's kind of building models for you. It's boring. It's for the math nuts out there. But if anyone has any questions, feel free. If not, again, pics will be posted in Discord later today. And I don't see any questions. So I hope you guys all have a great day. And I will see you tomorrow where we will build more factors into this model. Peace.